When you decide that structural pipe lining is the solution for your aged vertical cast iron pipes, you may be offered various installation methods that range widely in cost. How do you decide which installation method to choose? Do all installation methods produce the same results? Most importantly, is the installer a licensed plumbing contractor that is certified by the material manufacturer? And does the installation method strictly adhere to the manufacturer's specifications according to the Florida Building Code? Will the material manufacturer provide a warranty for the installation process? Finally, will my vertical pipe problems really be fixed? Same materials, but the installation process is where the similarities stop. The installation process has a huge effect on the outcome of the final product and whether your piping issues are really resolved. Before we discuss the installation methods, let us learn about the basic materials that will be used in all of the above processes. All the processes use a felt-like liner that is impregnated with an epoxy resin. There is approximately a 1-hour working time that allows the saturated liner to be installed in your pipe, where it is then inflated with a removable bladder that presses the liner out to the shape of the pipe. After approximately 4 to 6 hours, the epoxy resin hardens, and the impregnated lining material becomes a structural part of your vertical pipe drainage system. The next question is, if they all use the same materials, why do I have to be concerned with the installation process? Good question. To answer that, we need to take a closer look at the lining material. The lining material comes in large rolls made up of a tube, similar to a felt-like sock that is porous on the inside and has a slick or impervious coating on the outside. The tube is sized to match your pipe diameter. The porous side soaks up the epoxy, and the impervious side protects the installer and his tools from becoming covered in epoxy. It is important that the porous side gets completely saturated with epoxy, because when the epoxy hardens, it gives the liner a structural feature that is important to the finished product. The slick, impervious coating on the outside of the liner allows the installer to use his hands and tools to safely ensure that the epoxy saturates the interior felt liner. That being said, let's look at your pipes to understand how the material will be affected when it is installed. Chances are your vertical stacks have been in service for 20 to 30 years, and during that time they have absorbed soap, grease, and organic waste that build up bacteria that eventually coat and pit your vertical pipes. That, along with the corrosion and scale that forms on the interior of the pipe, creates a challenging environment for a structural liner to perform properly, because no mechanical or hydrojet cleaning process will deliver a pipe that is completely free of scale, grease, soap, or organic buildup. The remaining buildup in the pipe should factor into which installation method you should choose, because gravity and flowing water will take their toll on the final product that is installed in your vertical pipe. Method number 2, the pull-in-place gapping process. This technique gets its name from the multiple gaps that are cut out of a single liner to gap the multiple fittings in the vertical stack. The individual installer will make his own determination as to how the gaps will be measured and placed in the liner. There is no manufacturer's installation manual that addresses this process. And there is no standard for accuracy in the installer's calculations. This method is often incorrectly referred to as stop and start, but in reality, it is an installer's invention because there is no manufacturer's installation manual that approves the process of gapping. The selling point of this process is the single liner will be dropped into the vertical stack, inflated, and the bladder will typically be removed in one day. the lack of precision in this process can never ensure that the gapped liner is properly covering the fitting joints. These sections of unlined pipe become the future location of leaks and are not covered by any installer or material manufacturer. The greatest flaw in this method is tied to the fact that the slick, impervious coating is installed against the sides of the contaminated pipe. To date, multiple lawsuits in the state of Florida point to the future problems facing the installer and the property owner because over time, the liners do react to gravity and slip down to cover branch openings, and the unfinished edges on each end of the gapped liner allow for water to get behind the liner and to deform the shape. These unfinished edges also provide lips and ledges that catch debris. Some installers will tell you that they cut slits in the impervious coating to allow epoxy to bleed out, but this step has little or no effect on the liner's overall ability to adhere to the contaminated pipe surface. Method number 3, the continuous inversion method. This manufacturer-approved method is the most effective professional technique to line the complete vertical stack from top to bottom with one continuous liner. A delivery tank guides the single continuous liner down the vertical stack with a simple procedure that inverts the liner as it leaves the tank, similar to when you take off your sock and it rolls inside out. This ensures that the epoxy-saturated side of the tube is pressed up against the interior surface of the pipe. Although no epoxy will bond in this contaminated environment, the continuous saturated surface of the liner will provide a level of adherence that will not allow the liner to slip or leave gapped edges to channel water or catch debris. The material manufacturer requires that an approved robotic reinstatement tool must provide the necessary precision to correctly open the branch lines when the liner is hardened. This installation method also adheres strictly to the statutes of the Florida State Building Code. When the completed continuous liner is put into service in the vertical pipe, the property owner can rest assured that his decision to choose the manufacturer-approved PTI method of continuous inversion with robotic reinstatement is the only choice that makes sense.